So welcome everyone. Welcome back to our webinar series, Embracing Change. We've got an absolute treat today. We've got a young guy, huh, Jack? Young at heart.
Young at heart, old in years.
Based out of Nyon, which is just outside of Geneva. And he's going to share with us, he runs, as you can see in the background, Fit for Life. I haven't started reading your book yet, Jack, so it's on my desk. I just got back, as you know. And so we want to talk about just the simple things, right? I think, Jack, if you don't mind, a little short intro, and then let's just go very, very simple, very basic, because you and I both know it's the simple stuff and the consistency and the persistency that creates the quality of life that you've been able to enjoy and continue to enjoy. So welcome, Jack. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And you're an inspiration for many of us and a lot more after we share this webinar. So thank you. An absolute honor and privilege.
Well, thank you, Faisal, for inviting me. I think I'll just do a very short history. I'm 80 years old. I basically have done sports all my life, competitive sports, sports just to get in shape and stay in shape and so on, for no particular reason except it was fun for me. So my life has been based on what amuses me, what is fun, what is gratifying to do. And one of those things was sports. And the sports were all over the place, mountain climbing, swimming, deep sea diving, cycling, and I could go on and on. And as I say to everybody, I tried everything, and I was really a champion at nothing except trying everything.
Okay.
but doing this allowed me to stay in great physical shape. I never got sick. I never had a letdown, mentally or physically or in some other form. And I think it was this exercise, being in good physical shape, that also allowed me to have a business mind that was functioning very well. And I had all kinds of businesses that I started, which I have now sold. And this allows me then now to go into a philanthropic activity, because I said to myself, there must be something to being in physically good shape that keeps sickness away. Yeah. And I did some research on this, and basically what is happening to the world today is that old people are living longer, but they're living longer because of pharmaceutical products that keep them living longer. 80% of people over 80 will die from something that they didn't catch, which is a non-communicable disease, which is like diabetes, which causes heart problems, which causes all kinds of other molecular problems in the body. Diabetes comes very often from obesity, and our sedentary lifestyle has pushed us in a situation where we must keep people alive with pharmaceutical products and not with preventive medicine. And sports and physical activity, and I must say also training your brain to deal with difficult situations, that's the key.
So amazing. But when we were about to start the webinar, you spoke about you played rugby. So you said that you were not champion at anything. Well, if you played rugby for the university, you must have been pretty good.
I was good enough to be on teams, and I was good enough to be, selected from time to time, particularly in bicycling. That was really my best sport. Okay. And as a result, I became a supporter of bicycle races, and ultimately I was on the committee to set up the U.S. bicycle team, U.S. Postal. Okay. And this was a great experience because I could see the really great athletes, the effort they have to make to be great athletes. I never made that effort myself, I think, and I probably wasn't gifted enough to do it. Yeah. But the effort was made to stay fit, to feel good, to have my mind working properly, and to keep my weight steady, which has been steady forever.
So let's take a lead from that, right? So we always, when we train, we talk about you're an athlete of life. right? An athlete in life. And I think let's kind of mirror that athletic way of life to how that's actually helped you, like you said, be very successful in business, to have clarity. What are the key factors you feel that that ability to be a good sportsman or a good, bicyclist or rugby player or all the other stuff that you did, and how that's mirrored out not only in your business life but also in your family life? I mean, you're married for a very long time. You've got a few beautiful kids, and how are those coming out? I think let's expand a little bit beyond. I know we'll talk about the health span, but let's look at all the yummy stuff as well, because family, contribution to society. These are all incredible things that we all yearn for. That you've been able to really master.
Well, I think you have to focus on regularity. So if you're doing exercise, it has to be regular. I think you have to have a kind of determination, because everybody gets discouraged by this or that happens to them in life. I had some failures in business and I was very discouraged. Yeah. Sometimes you need help to get through things. I undertook sophrology because I was having trouble sleeping at night. I was solving the problems of a bad business in the middle of the night, Yeah. So sometimes you need help from the outside, which I took to learn how to do this sophrology thing. It gets you to sleep. But I think it's habit, it's determination, it's a regularity to what you do, which is really required to stay in pretty good shape. Of course, if you have a family, I've been married for 55 years, so I have 3 kids and 7 grandchildren, and this is all very important to me. So this also gives you a comfort. It gives you some peace and peace of mind, because you don't have to deal with major family problems. And I think the other thing is, it's a way to do things with other people. It's kind of a social thing. We go out, when I go out cycling, I occasionally go alone, but usually I go with 2 or 3 other people I know well. Okay. Some of them young, some of them old, which I think is also good to have young friends and old friends. The old friends will disappear, so the young friends have to replace them. So it's a consistent effort to be surrounded by people you like to be with, and sport is a good way to do that.
So you feel sport is an easier way to be able to create that community beyond the work and beyond the family? You feel it's is that something?
Well, I think so because sport is egalitarian. You do as well as you can, and the other people don't criticize you for not being as good as they are, or not necessarily jealous of you because you're better. I think it allows you to have this egalitarian point of view. Whereas in business is a little bit like a jockeying for the best position you can get, negotiating the price, coming up with legal elements which allow you to have a contract like you would like to have, a contract of sale or a contract of purchase. So I think that you have to treat business not as a conflict, but as a real sort of a trial and error sort of operation. It takes your time, it takes your reflection, it takes an innovative mind to come up with the structure that will make it work. And if it doesn't work, you try something new. And usually by trying new things, you can improve things as you go on. So that also is a question of intuitive, I would say, down-to-earth intelligence. It doesn't relate to how you are educated or anything else. It relates to how determined and perseverant you are.
Okay, so when I just did some more testing when I was in Geneva. I think it was actually the day after we met. We met on a Sunday, and then Monday I went in to do some testing, and I did some testing on looking at stress and looking at my brain. And it was interesting that they still found, the last time I tested, they found stress at the cellular level. And this time it was surfaced even higher up because they tested me while I was meditating. And then they did some other testing for my brain, and they've asked me I started to drum during COVID, and they've asked me to drum twice a week to keep the neuroplasticity of the brain. But at the other end, they've asked me to do Tai Chi Qigong twice a week to really slow things down. So what, the different sports that you do, is there anything that's almost absolute stillness other than meditation that you're
I
doing
don't
in
do it.
sport?
I don't do any meditation.
Okay.
But I think my best thing that I can do for myself
Yeah.
is to sleep 8 hours a night, because sleep is restoring. Sleep allows you to, even you have a muscle problem in the lower back or something. If you sleep 8 hours, you don't have it in the morning. And this is a refreshing 8 hours. And I'm allowed to do that with sophrology, and people who are listening may know what this is, but it's a way of putting your whole body to sleep gradually to the point where most of your blood is going to your brain. And since it's going to your brain, the rest of the body is completely restored. And in the brain, you're supposed to think about nothing except how warm your brain is getting. This is a kind of meditation, probably, where you get into a second state. And that's the only thing I do. And that's the thing that seems to have the most effect for me. If I do a race, because there are competitions for older people, a cycling race, and I'm really tired after that race, it's like a miracle. If I can sleep 8 hours following that, I feel great in the morning. I'm restored.
So is there a simple way to explain that, or is it too detailed to be able to explain what is that process that you do before going to bed?
I think the easiest way to explain it is that you put your whole body to sleep.
Okay.
And you start with your toes, and it works up your legs, and the rest of the. It's a technique you have. I mean, I would never know how to do it if I hadn't taken lessons from an 83-year-old lady who was a friend of the family, who was a sophrology teacher. Okay. Very kind, very easy to follow, very patient. When you say, "Well, it's not," I'm not doing what I'm doing what you said, and it's not working, you know. So this, I think it's worth taking some lessons. Lots of people are practicing this, and a lot of it is sleep related.
No, but this is one of the things, right? When we speak with individuals and families, and the importance of sleep, people are more focused on nutrition and fitness, and not realizing that the rest and recovery that you're speaking about is actually a priority versus nutrition and fitness. Not that those are not important, but at the end of the day, I know they're all interconnected, and it's a triangle, and we get it. And, but at the end of the day, that discipline to get that 7.5, 8 hours, we call it 5 sleep cycles, which is what you're, just slightly above talking about, is so vital. And I'm so happy to hear that is one of the key secret sauces that you're referring to when it comes to vitality. Now, give us a couple more. What else is in your arsenal that keeps you so vibrant and
well, I hate to say this, but if you're competitive and you've done competitive things, like I've ridden my bike in 22 countries, and organized the teams to go with me, and we spend 10 days on our bikes in a place we don't know anything about. I've climbed most peaks that are in Europe, South America. I haven't ever climbed any peaks in the Himalayas, but almost all the others. So that also requires a sort of spirit of competition. For example, you go to a place like the Aconcagua, 7,000 meters, and you're with a group, and half of the guys can't make it up. And then, what is your reaction? Well, I'm going to. It's not a question, I'll show them. It's more a question of, well, I'm capable of it, and I'll do it. And others, you don't know what the psychology is, or the problem of physical fitness is. You just, maybe don't have enough determination. And that's a form of competition. So I think that makes a big difference. I think also, if you look at the business side of things, we're in a world that's an international world, and it's no longer a world of countries that totally depend on themselves. And to do foreign trade, you need to have, multinational business to be protected, because in some places it won't work very well. In other places it'll work extremely well. You have to protect the downside, and you have to guarantee the upside. So you have to make an effort to learn languages, and I don't know how many you speak, but I speak a lot of them because I was working in a lot of places where it wasn't too easy to just use English. You know? So
Yes.
so I think this is a great help. It's a kind of a wide view of the world and what what the world has to offer you. And I think the other big thing, in my own case is just plain curiosity. When I was 17, I went to Turkey from the US as an exchange student. And this changed my life because it was so different from the life that I was living. In the US, I was in California, which was like paradise at the time. only 10 million people, you know.
We call it La La Land. We call it La La Land.
Yes, right. And I had a surfboard and I had all that stuff, that kids do when doing sports and having friends and so on. So I think that this curiosity to go to a place, see something you've never seen before, you say, wow, this is incredible. I want to go to other places too. I want to do some things in those other places. And that's why I've had this kind of worldwide, series of activities, which included doing microfinance and things that were, they were businesses, but they were also had a charitable side to them. And so I think those are the factors that help, to have an interesting life and to be kind of satisfied. I think I say to people, you have to look at things that you're going to do. They give you a sense of peace inside. Yeah. Because if you have a sense of peace inside you, you can be very effective. You're not going to, blow it because you're all stressed out and had a couple of bad things happen during the day. And you have to come back to the idea of being relaxed about your past and about your future.
Yeah. So, I mean, the competitiveness, obviously, some people might take it in a different way. I think what you spoke about is me versus me. And I think that's the real play, right? That it's me versus me. Yeah. It's not me versus the other. It's not me versus society. It's me playing my game, right? And seeing how far I can push my capacity and keep building, right? That's what I'm hearing. Is that correct, Jack?
That's correct. I think with one thing I would say is that if you have a competitive spirit, you can usually go further and longer and better than someone who doesn't have. Because there's some kind of as you say, a competition with yourself, but it's also a thing where you say, well, if I just throw in the towel, have I done everything I can do with whatever strengths in my head and mind, body, and so on I can put forward. So I think there is, it's probably competition with yourself. I think that's probably the best definition.
I think it's the most neutral. I mean, I went to see my doc yesterday, and he was telling me that his granddaughter has been selected to be, to become at 15 a professional ballet dancer. And then I asked, and this is in the United States, actually in California, where you're from. And I asked, I said, does she have a mind trainer? Does she have that support system? And he said, oh, I don't think so. And I said, that's pretty surprising because most other athletes in the other spaces have that full support system. But it was quite surprising to hear that the ballet, it's a 15-year-old girl, that's not part of it. So I said, look, please talk to your daughter, right? To your son, sorry, it was his son's child. And just make sure that there's that level of support as well, because it is a mental game, right? When it's me versus me, of course, there's other people in the space, right? It's a competition. But at the end of the day, it's that piece that you're speaking about, right? That why am I doing this, right? Am I doing this because it's expected of me, or is this actually my calling? Is it me wanting to come from my inner state, right? And I think in your case, from hearing you, that trip to Turkey, and then obviously eventually the itch to learn all those languages, right? We all, as you know, most of us speak 5+. That's kind of normal for us, but not normal for many parts of the world, right? So we're curious. We want to eat different foods, and we want to go to different countries, and we want to experience different cultures and different religions, and because it's just because we can, right? It's possible, so why not, right? The question is not why, it's why not, right? So it's the opposite, right? So I think that curiosity that you're speaking to is something that I think many talk about. They use words. I don't think they really understand, Jack. What does that curiosity mean? What is that itch? I always joke, right? Jack's got a rash, and he's itchy and he wants to go figure it out. And he needs to go to, I don't know, Colombia to figure it out this time, because the itch is, specific to Colombia or something. I don't know. So what would you, like, what's driving that curiosity? You think it's just an inner state, or do you think that you can actually learn to be more curious and be more driven? What do you feel? Jack, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can just hear you now. You popped off for a second.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm saying the curiosity and the drivenness. Do you feel that we can support people to actually move towards that, or is that something that just occurs from within?
Yeah, well, I think I would look at it this way: the curiosity that is satisfied is a fulfillment. Okay. Because you go somewhere, you see something, you want to know why it's like that. You have somebody explain to you, and pretty soon it becomes part of your, your data bank, and part of your feeling that you have done what you should do to find out how somebody else lives, or to find out why somebody else eats so much hot pepper, in their food. It's kind of it's a fulfillment of and I think curiosity is blended with adventure, because I see a lot of these first experiences in a new place as an adventure as well. And particularly if you're in doing a sport in one of those places. I mean, like I have a long-standing desire to go and climb up to the top of Mount Ararat, okay, which is not really mountain climbing. It's kind of to go to a mythical place, okay. Which has, that's supposedly where Noah's Ark was to have gone and gotten stuck when there was the flood, okay. Okay. And so even mythology has its, attractions. So why this story, and why all the other stories, mythical stories about Mount Ararat? And I would go to the top just to see what it does to me, and that's definitely curiosity, where, of course, it brings you back to the reality that none of those mythical things probably happened there. Yeah. But it gave you a chance to go up and have a Turkish guide, and get to the top of another high one. And it isn't as tough as where you have to go up rocks and do varap and so on. So I think that's how I kind of describe the whole curiosity element. That it's a big thing in me.
Yeah, no, because most people, right? They always, Steve Jobs also kept saying, right? Be curious, and people, they talk about it, but they don't know how to action it. They don't know what it tastes like, what it feels like, and they're trying to engage with it. But what I love is the whole concept that as you engage with it, there's a level of fulfillment, which is what we're all looking for, which is the joy, right? The joy of life. And with that joy, as you experience all of those, comes the experience of abundance. And abundance starts to flow into your life, not only from an intellectual perspective, but emotionally, and you have an expansiveness. And from that expansiveness, right, it's, so the whole, it's like a domino, right? Things start to completely, change. Like you said, from that one trip to Turkey, that was the beginning of a whole new beginning. Is that what I'm hearing, as in terms of your
that's
experience? Right?
Yeah, so definitely.
So it's each one of us looking for that trip to Turkey in our own way. I'm not saying everybody should get up and go to Turkey, but and find our own way. So now you've had this incredible experience of being a sportsman in different realms and continuing to do that, and obviously a business world where you said there were times where there was some discouragement, and now you're talking about giving back, right? And using that skill set, that genius that you've have based on all the experiences. What is that about? If you can share a little bit about what are you trying to give back?
I think what made me start this process was getting old. Okay, and you can see, even if you're staying in shape and so on, you lose a certain amount of muscular potency,
Okay.
potency as well. You see other people, who are really in bad shape, that are younger than you, and you say to yourself, well, what is going on here? And you look at your own life and you say, well, all these sports and not gaining weight and, just eating normally, the right portions with not any special nutritional side to it and so on. I never got sick. So what's the deal? I mean, this is kind of like I did preventive medicine all my life without knowing it. And that's a discovery. And that's a discovery when you talk to, let's say, a sports doctor or sports clinics. We have great sports clinics. In fact, the one that I go to in Geneva is now anointed by the Olympic Committee as the official Olympic sports center to do measurements and train elite athletes and so on. So I started thinking about what can we do for some of these older people, to allow them in the life that they are going to have, which will be longer than the averages in the past, make their life better, and so I always put it like this: living longer is not necessarily living better. And we need to attack the problem in the old style way of preventive medicine. And I think Hippocrates was the one who said, do keep yourself in shape, don't eat too much, have a lot of friends, have a joyful life. That's kind of that sums it all up. But how do you get there is the problem, because over the last 40, 50 years, people have become sedentary. Everybody has a car or motorcycle or whatever. It's just a small minority of people who ride their bike to work, which I do. Okay, so not normal. How do you normalize that? How do you encourage older people, even before they get old, in their mid 40s, mid 50s, to start taking good care of themselves from a physical standpoint? And that's when I had this idea that, okay, it's one thing for the government to say, well, you should walk upstairs, or you should, do push-ups every morning or something like that. Nobody's going, or very few people will do that. You have to do it in the private world, supported, I think, by philanthropy. And in the private world, you have to convince people that if they don't do that, those last years of their lives won't be so great. And how about having 10, 15 extra years to live because of the way you've treated yourself and live, and still do all the things you like to do? And if some of your friends die, replace them with younger people doing the things you like to do, with younger people that are in the sporting world or in the calisthenics that you might do in a big hall with a gym coach who's got 50 people doing his exercises. I mean, find a way to guarantee, or probably guarantee, that over your lifespan you will have mostly good years, if not all good years. And those good years are, you can go out with your family, you can still take trips, you can still be curious and go to a country you haven't been to before, as we talked about before. So I think this started my thinking about doing a foundation. We've created the foundation. It's 2 years old now. And we've started by trying to identify those people who have operations or associations or even local NGOs who get people fit on the ground all over the world. And so we have a competition between all these people. We get 500 proposals per year, and we pick 4 or 5 each year to get an award and a grant. And the grant is there to congratulate them for what they've done and encourage them to go on further, expand across borders, use new technology, develop new technology for keeping well and keeping your muscles in form and so on. That's what we're doing now. That's the first stage. I think we have another couple of years to identify all these really great operators on the ground, and then they become the model for other countries where these things don't exist. And we are part of the focal point of getting these really good performers to measure their impact so that we can see where the focus is on impact, more people doing it, more people living longer without going to old folks' homes and so on. That's what we're shooting for. However long it takes, I don't know, but I'm hoping to be around to see it a bit longer and have quite a big impact.
And can you give us some examples of some of these, like what some of these NGOs or people on the ground, like what kind of activities they're doing, if you don't mind?
Yeah, one of the laureates for this year, because we just had our award ceremony in September 22nd. One of the winners is a group in France called CAMI Sport and Cancer. And this is an oncologist who was going to a gym for karate. And the guy who had the karate gym felt that people who were really sick could do exercise, and this would really help them. Helps blood flow, lymph flow, attitude, routine, all those things. And he had somebody who was coming to learn karate who was an oncologist. And those two guys got together 25 years ago and made CAMI. And they did something very revolutionary, which was kind of opposed by the French government originally. They decided to get people up out of bed after chemotherapy and start exercise immediately. That was the first experiment. And what did they find? They found that this changed drastically the attitude of the person. It changed drastically the rate of recovery, or the rate of time needed for recovery. It increased the number of people who were in remission. And ultimately, over the years, they've kept statistics from the day one that it reduced several types of cancer returns between 40 and 57%.
So recurrence.
So
wow, amazing.
Recurrence.
Congratulations.
And you've had your own bout with cancer, so you know that there must be ways which have a chemical and bodily explanation, but the result is coming from something very simple to apply. Yes. But these guys really had nerve to go against the health department in France and the Sécu, Sécurité Sociale, to do something like this and get it approved. Now they're in 40 hospitals, all of the oncology hospitals in France. They do all of the treatment post chemotherapy treatments in these hospitals, and then they also do the post-care with little places they have set around the major cities that they're in, where people can come in after they're in remission and sometimes long-term remission and come in and do exercise in these local places close to where they live.
Wow, amazing. Amazing. I love that.
So this is, I say to myself, nobody else is doing this. So my encouragement to these people is, okay, when you have got the whole network in France working in big local places that people can go to close to where they live to stay informed, you should really expand this. Or you start working with other hospitals and give them your techniques and let them do the same thing in oncology departments. So that's one example.
That's amazing.
Should I give you another one?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Because we get to learn, right? We get to understand that how the body and how engagement and movement and all these pieces make such a huge difference, right? To the physiology, the recovery, because cancer is something, that you work with, you engage with. It's not something you, like when people use the word fight, I say, guys, don't even start, because you'll get your handed to you if you use that word. So I love that.
I think in cancer, what they see is an enormous amount of relief
Yes.
when they've just done a few days of exercise, and they can see and feel the difference in themselves.
Yeah.
And they have hope. Then they have, and that hope gives strength. And
Yes.
so I think, but I'll give you another one
Yeah.
that isn't so much based on physical fitness, but based on older people who are already in rest homes.
Okay.
There's a guy in Denmark who has developed, he's a bicycle manufacturer, and he developed a bicycle where you could put in 2 or 3 people, a tricycle. Okay, it's like they used to have in Cambodia and in India. It's like a rickshaw. You know, we carry 3 or 4 people, but it has a bicycle behind it.
But they're all in a row like that, or it's all in
And
a
then
row,
they have
or
usually 2 people are in it. It can be as many as 3, and they sit side by side. And
side by side, not front.
and they are in front of the bicycle, so they see everything. So what he does is twice a week he started, that's how he started. He went to a rest home, and he gave everybody the opportunity to come out on a bicycle, on one of these tricycles, with him or with someone else. He has other volunteer bicyclists mainly who push these people around. And so everyone in the rest home who wants to has a chance to go out, and the time is not set. They say, where do you want to go? We'll take you there. Okay.
Yeah.
And so this has fundamentally changed the attitude of these people in rest homes. It hasn't improved necessarily their health in some physical way, but it's given them a release, a mental release, where they feel at peace with being properly treated. And this is, the word treat is really what it is for these people. And now what they do is, for the ones who are well enough to be able to be taken, once a year, they take people out way out of the city of Copenhagen to a little hotel restaurant place in the countryside, and they have dinner there. They spend the night in a hotel, and they're taken back the next day in the tricycle. And so he has this going with what I call a social franchise, because that's what we say to people: to do an expansion abroad, do a social franchise with somebody else who has the money and the time and the effort to do what you do. They're in 52 countries already.
Wow.
And there are 3,500 of these trishaws around the world. And he's calling me today, by the way, to figure out a way to finance the creation of more trishaws, because every single country needs more of them, but they're expensive to build. And
okay, where are they built? Where are they built?
For the moment, they're built. The majority of them are built in Denmark, and that's an expensive place to do that.
For sure.
He is looking. He is looking for a way to reduce the cost, but still have something that's viable. He has no problem getting drivers, to drive these things. He calls them pilots.
Okay.
Because people get such a kick out of having these old people. We have videos of them. One old person going like this, in the trishaws, and another one slapping his leg. Go faster. So this could be looked at as a kind of a strange thing. I think it's a wonderful thing, because those people are prisoners in these homes, and to just give them a pleasure like this, I think, is something absolutely wonderful. So we also are focused on the mind, because it's mindset, that really makes a difference in people's, what would I say, attitude about living and living a long time. And that's why I come back always to the idea that people who keep themselves in shape will live this long life, which is predicted for everybody, but hopefully will not need to be put away somewhere and fed all these pharmaceutical products to stay alive and have a normal life as long as possible.
So these people that you're referring to are in these homes are actually people with a lifespan, but not necessarily a health span. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct.
Okay.
But we have to think as well. We can't just say, "Oh, that's a crazy idea to put people away like that." We have to think about them as well, and think about how philanthropy can play a role in that area of elderhood people. Oh, by the way, we have on our advisory board, and I would recommend to anybody listening to this at some point in time, a book called Elderhood, and it's written by Dr. Louise Aronson, who is a professor of gerontology at the University of California Hospital in San Francisco. And this is the only medical book other than Atul Gawande, the only other author to have a bestseller written about medical science. And it's really down to earth, talks about a lot of these people, who are in older persons' homes, and also the other people who somehow have the gumption, to do all this physical fitness, to be out walking every day, to not use their car so often, to not be lazy, and spend as little time as possible sitting down. That's a book that's worth reading as well.
After we met, my team, the head of the physical, she actually knew about the book and she had read a certain portion.
Oh, okay.
So she responded immediately after we met as to who that was and what they've talked about, and kind of summarized it in different ways. But coming back, so this is now your goal is to look at how we can, in different ways, impact individuals to have a better health span, whether physically, mentally, or even emotionally or relationally, right? That's what I'm starting to hear.
That's the idea. The last two words you said, I'm not an expert on that, but I feel like a sporting life and being in good physical condition creates a better attitude about, and deals with some emotional issues, because you set an objective and you reach your objective, and
No, because this is the thing, right? The community. What I love about the sports side is what you're referring to, right? When you look at the highest life expectancies in the world, right? What you see is the ones that are at the higher top are surprising that they're there. And for those who are not aware, Hong Kong is actually number one, which is quite shocking for most. And it's because of that communal, that family, that weekend meal where everybody has a position, everybody has, I wouldn't say position, but has a purpose, because they're all having a meal together, irrespective of age. If you're in town, it's mandatory, right? And that keeps you always engaged with the family, no matter what. And that's the tipping point, right? That communal feeling that you're referring to, that togetherness. And I think sports is, I guess, a very good way, and it works, right? In many communities where the familial piece is not as strong, which we've seen in many countries in the world, that familial, connection, unlike yours with your 3 kids and obviously your 9 grandchildren, it's a different. Is it 9 or 7? Did I get it? 9 grandchildren or 7 grandchildren? Sorry, Jack, which one was it?
Yeah, the sound went off for just a second, Faisal. So we're back now.
Yeah. So coming back to, so I'm saying that communal feeling is what's the tipping point between the number 1, number 2, and the number 5, number 7, right? So a lot of the countries that we think should be in the top 5 are actually in the top 10 because of the familial piece, that as they age, they get lonely and they end up in these homes that you're referring to, right? Even though they have the farm to table, even though they have the most incredible nature, even though they have supposedly the best social systems in terms of healthcare and all of that, they lose that connection, that human connection, right? And I think that's what you're bringing to with this trishaw or whatever you called it, right? Which is quite, important. I think that missing piece is beautiful, and of course the cancer side is another one. So we still have another 15 minutes. Is there something you'd like to share? You talked about the sedentary lifestyle, you talked about the consistency, you talked about, a bit of competitiveness and curiosity. Are there other things that some of us who would love to be as healthy and vibrant as you when we get to your age, is there other pieces that that you can share with us to be able to move in that direction?
Yeah, I think one thing I'm really looking closely at is technology as applied to this long and healthy life. Technology for getting diagnoses of the non-communicable diseases we mentioned, which also include 12 types of cancer, by the way. So it includes all the heavy-duty stuff, where 80% of the people over my age are dying of those things, ultimately, is the technological area. I think I'm very interested in that does digital diagnoses when you have a patch or a ring or whatever it is, and depending on the quality of the artificial intelligence, which is at the other end of the system.
Yeah.
But there are some telemedicine groups that have excellent diagnostics done with artificial intelligence. I think this is going to change the way we can diagnose what people have. The one thing that people get early and stays for the rest of their life is diabetes type 2. And diabetes type 2 comes from sedentary living, gaining too much weight, having a very bad diet in terms of what you eat, but you're probably eating too much, and putting on the famous 1 kilo per year, that everybody. And this technology of diagnosis can reveal preliminary signs of diabetes. And if it's preliminary, you can deal with it if people will follow the proper diet and start exercise. And most medical doctors are recommending that. Okay. Now, you can always go and just take care of these problems with insulin, but you almost have to wait until you get the real diabetes, for that to be effective. So already, for one of the main culprits here, we have technology, which is working very well. Another idea in technology is we have a laureate from last year who now is doing all of the recovery training in water for people recovering from surgery in the UK. If anybody is an NHS patient, they go to the NHS pools, but these have been subcontracted out to a fantastic guy who's a social entrepreneur, basically. And every single hospital pool in the NHS system is being run by him, which has cut the costs to the NHS by one half. And he develops things, technological things that nobody else has. He has an iPad, which everybody gets when they go in the pool with their code in it, which gives them their exercises to do, talks to them, says, you were supposed to do 10 repetitions. You only did 5. Now do the 5 more, okay? And the iPad is impermeable and it floats on the surface of the water, okay? And the person could put it on the edge of the pool. So that's one thing that he's done. He's also done now a thing that through, I think it's an infrared system. If the person is supposed to lift their arm up to this level, but it only gets up to this level, it's the iPad says, no, you move up another 4 inches and straighten your hand out. Now do the exercise, okay? Because it's a delicate thing how you do it. If you have a coach who's showing you and you really follow him, well, that's one thing. There is a coach, but the other thing is that you can do it. If you had a pool at home, you could do it at home. The thing. And we helped him get a grant from the NHS of 1.5 million pounds to develop other technology that can be used. For example, this same technology of the level of the arm and so on can be used at home with a mat on the floor. Less effective because you don't have the resistance of water, but better than better than so there's another idea. I think these technological ideas are going to come along, and with funding that we can do through a family company, we can be investors in some of those things that are purely commercial, but have a technology that commerce has developed that can be useful for these other types of activities. So that's one. The technological side, I think, is very big. The second thing that we're really focusing on now is there are lots of people who are mentally disturbed now because of the COVID, because of being on unemployment and supported, and now having to go out and look for another job. People who have had anxiety about other things which are less important than catching COVID, are just dumbstruck by the fear of catching COVID and so on. So the whole mental element of working on the mental side interests me. And I know that there have been a few studies done on how does physical activity affect your mental attitude, and how does it really affect, does it have an impact on getting rid of depression or anxiety, which are the two that are the most fierce of them, the most prevalent now. So we're studying this with a couple of other philanthropists, and also trying to look at what is being supported by those philanthropists by the Lancet in the UK, which has done one big study with 20,000 people. And that study had a control group, didn't do anything. 10,000 others did the exercises for 6 months, and they did them in groups, socially oriented groups, people who lived in certain areas, and they all got together. And we know that that's great for getting people, into doing something with a full group and having and making friends. And over 40% of the people who participated in that exercise basically gave up all of their medications that they were taking, prescribed by psychiatrists for them. And we're now going to get the numbers of how many of that over 40%, have kept
haven't gone back,
their immunity to go back to these medical solutions. So there, I think, not much has been done in this area of mental health, and it's certainly not tests that relate to physical activity. But since physical activity seems to work on everything else, the organs, your muscles, your brain.
But the chemicals being released, the endorphins, I mean, all of it, right? We all know that when we talk about athletes and we talk about thriving and vibrancy, but it has the same impact on the other end, right? Why are we just thinking that these are all good for the upside? It's also good for the downside, which is what
absolutely.
Right? To rebound back from that space.
So we are going to be looking in our award system, we're going to be looking for people working in those two areas, as well as the more old-fashioned, come and do your calisthenics with us in the city hall, with the other 150 people that are there. That's the old style, works just fine. Let it be, but we should take advantage of technology and also more knowledge about mental stress and mental concerns, particularly in the younger generation. That's where it never used to exist to this extent, and we have to get better at figuring out how to deal with that.
Yeah, the Asians are very good at that, right? They do Tai Chi, Qigong in the middle of the park, near the sea, downstairs in the apartments. I don't know if you've ever seen in Asia, but you just see people just gather together and they're just doing it every morning. And you're just like, wow, this is incredible, right? And there's no structure, there's no hall. It's just in the middle of a park or in the middle of a street, right? So maybe
I remember the first time I went to Hong Kong, long time ago. I was fascinated by seeing all those people in these little square parks, and very, very tightly together. They don't perhaps even know each other, and doing their Chinese exercises, and looking so peaceful in doing it. It wasn't the sweaty people who come out of gyms,
or hot yoga, right? Or spinning bikes. Now we might get screamed at, huh, Jack, for the comments we just made, but it's okay.
Exactly.
You know what? We can lose a few subscribers. It's okay.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. I think there's something to learn from this that exists, right? Of this Tai Chi, Qigong, this really slow movement that's just is being done in a collective with people, like you said, that don't know each other, that don't socialize with each other normally, right? But they just happen to be living in the neighborhood, and somebody's decided to lead, and others, they say, right, you lead and people will come, right? This is from the old days of leadership, right? That show up and watch the magic happen.
Right.
And I think that might be something that, might be something to tap into, right? When it comes to these laureates, to look at the ones that are doing it informally, right? And the incredibleness that they've created. I mean, you see it all over China, you see it all over Asia, and it continues, right? And of course, except sometimes during COVID, they had shut it down, which was a bit of a pity. But otherwise, it's never been stopped, right? Because
But anyway, I think there are a lot of things to do, and I think one has to concentrate one by one, find solutions to each thing. These solutions exist on the ground, so we have to identify them. We have to go and see them. We do due diligence on all of them, because we see, the accounts, excuse me, the financial accounts. We see, what the history is of the various people in the organization, how they train their coaches, how they get people to come in, and we just look for the best of the lot. And there are lots left to look at. And so we're going to continue that. But we're also continuing with the ones we have already given awards to. When the programs are really interesting that they're going to do, then we step in and we help them financially to do them, because they already have a big clientele, if I can call it that, touching lots of people already. That means that you get more leverage if they expand and if they grow further. And that's combined with the award system we have.
Yeah. Amazing, Jack. So in summary, are there a few, I know we talked about curiosity, we talked about competition, well, more me versus me. We talked about perseverance, right? We talked about, obviously you referred to sedentary lifestyle. I think that's a big piece and assumption, right? Sports, right? Being in that group's sporting space. And now, of course, you're giving back and all of that. In summary, what would you like to say to everyone as a nudge or a consideration? Or
I think most everyone has to face the idea that as they get old, they lose certain competencies that are physical and so on, and that in order, instead of looking at the worst side of it, that you will die, which we all know we will, look at the bright side. If you can live longer, you can live better, and you can do many of the things that you used to do, maybe with a little bit less effort and enthusiasm, and you don't overdo it. And if you have those extra years ahead of you because of the way you've lived, then that should be enough. And anybody who is, let's say, mid 40s, mid 50s, in that area, if they can hear this message and really start to take good care of themselves, it doesn't mean, going overboard like myself, that I always go overboard. But it does mean doing at least a minimum, or if possible, more than a minimum of exercise, avoiding sitting down, avoid 3 hours in front of the TV, having a couple of beers. These are the things that really will make a difference, and they can live longer. But even people who are already older, still in pretty good shape, that's the time to really start to make it get in even better shape, to have those extra years and have them worth something, and have them, I dream of the things I can still do if I'm still around in 10 years time, and those are my plans. And we can make plans like that if we have a good prospect of living much longer. Yeah.
Love that, Jack. Thank you. So thank you very much, Jack, for spending a good solid hour explaining about how you've achieved the vibrancy and maintained it, and your perspective, and God give you 10 more years and more, right? You're still not very old. So to me, I'm hoping another 45 for you, but that's your choice. However you want to play that out. We see how it plays out. But and thank you for sharing all the incredible support that you're giving to all these amazing NGOs and people really changing the world. Please keep it up, and we really appreciate that you are who you are, and the contribution you make to society, and for being on this webinar with us so that we can learn and grow and aspire to do some of the things that you're doing. So really, thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you for the invitation, Faisal, and keep up your good work as well.